we are on our way to a 9:05 late-ish, but not too late arm day. And I've got a couple choices though to make, which I think I already know the answer to for tonight, at least. So, usually with arms, I'd say probably more so than like legs or a couple of other, well, there's hardly any other muscle groups that are compared to arms and legs having like the complete front and back side of a limb. But it's, you know, when people talk about an arm workout, usually it's all triceps, all biceps, set of tris, set of bis, 3 sets of triceps, 3 sets of curls, 3 sets of this. I think for today, I might stick with a 2 and 2 approach, because usually when I'm bulking up, I'm going to lean towards more so of like, okay, triceps first, completely obliterate triceps, then move on to biceps, which I'm probably still going to do in this dieting phase. I mean, that's not over, but there's a certain nature of dieting where your pump is much more fleeting, right? I'm no longer full of 800 grams or 750 grams of carbs per day, keeping all my fucking glycogen levels peaked up to the max. It's just not the nature of it. So even though, well hydrated, I've got enough electrolytes in my system to feel good and everything, like I'm gonna feel pretty strong. Just because I've lowered my calorie intake doesn't mean I'm suddenly half strength. But pump-wise, I will feel a difference, because on an arm day, my fucking triceps will be so pumped after tries that sometimes I feel like they get in the way of me doing my curls, because now I'm like, not only am I doing a curling action, but I have to almost like counteract the tension of my triceps to completely get to the top of the curl, right? So now that I'm dieted down, not so full of fucking, well, I mean, just straight up not so full. If you were to measure how pumped I was on like a chest day, 5 minutes after the last set, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, dieted, flat, I would deflate much quicker than when I'm full of fucking food. Right? Your pump's just gonna last longer. Another benefit of being kind of bulked up and well fed, you get to be pumped for longer, right? So, since that's the case, sometimes that kind of makes me think that I want to do tris and biceps concurrently, so that at the end of the lift, and this is kind of just half subjective, at the end of the lift I can see my whole arm pumped up instead of just my biceps, and now my triceps have kind of lost some of their pump. And I don't think it's all BS. There's most certainly some sarcoplasmic widening and fascial stretching effect of having a pretty serious fucking chest pump. I mean, I don't think it's as direct as like your intensity and making sure you have enough workload or anything, but as far as I'm concerned, if you had a good lift, I can almost guarantee you had a good pump as well. So I'd say the two go hand in hand pretty closely, right? It's not direct or anything, but it's pretty fucking close, So the arm days where I finish with the craziest fucking pump are usually the ones where I finish that workout and say, holy crap, that was one of my fucking best arm days of the last few weeks. And it's not all about the lift itself either, because if I roll into a lift, I could do the same rope extensions, push downs, dips, single arm, like underhand, whatever, and then a couple different kinds of curls. I could do the same workout 2 weeks later, but that second time could be a completely different lift, way better, feel way stronger, feel way more energized, just feel way more fucking pumped at the end of it, when the intensity might not change at all. Because in that second lift, let's say 2 weeks later, right, imagine I got a lot of sleep, I was nice and well hydrated, had enough electrolytes in my system. Preparation for the lift will then affect the actual lift's performance. So that's where if you're a real fucking meathead and you want to roll up to the gym on the regular and say, okay, I want to go crazy, I know I'm going to push it crazy, and I want that effort to be translated into results, then it's not just about your time in the gym. Your time outside of the gym is going to begin to at least develop a more of a lifting based value that the beginner character may not really realize yet, you know? But there's a reason why everybody's walking around with a massive fucking jug of water and whatever else. The cliches work. But I can almost guarantee within 90 minutes, I will have loaded all my stuff into the locker, gotten a little bit warm, and then begun as well as finished this arm day. In terms of exercise choices, I mean, you got pick of the litter, man. Frankly, for me, most of my arm days are not particularly planned. Like, I don't have to do this movement first and this one second. I do fall into some patterns, but for the most part, I'd say this is my roster of tricep and bicep movements that are typically in my go-to list. Triceps, the rope extension has really grown on me. I was not given enough credit to the slow squeezing, holding, and then slow eccentric portion. Honestly, me doing rope extensions now versus like even a year ago, insanely different, and I think I'm noticing the difference in my tricep development because of it. But after some of that stuff, or some kind of single arm cross body extension squeezing reps, nothing beats the basics, man. Some straight bar push downs, same thing, good hold, good squeeze. Machine dips, some bent over overhead cable extensions with an easy bar or a V bar, and then the occasional skull crusher if my elbows feel pretty good. But that's pretty much it. You're not going to catch me do like a single double or a dumbbell double overhead extension where you put the dumbbell behind your head. I'm just too tight, which is something I'm going to start working on with like stretching deep tissues kind of stuff. But that pretty much hits all bars. Squeezing stuff with the rope and the cable extensions, some heavier stuff with the overhead extensions and the heavy push downs, the heavy dips, and then a little bit of the combination with the two. If you do maybe a burnout set of really heavy dips, and then if there's a cable open next to you, jump onto it, do some light squeezing extensions with like the rope or a straight bar. And biceps is even fucking easier. I mean, what's you almost need a full category of different bicep curls. Cable dedicated, dumbbell dedicated, and then like preacher curl dedicated. But standard dumbbell curls will always have a pretty solid place in my routine. Cable curls, either straight bar or with a D handle. I love a good preacher too, be it a machine or like just a dumbbell over a preacher bench. And then one that took me a little while to get the grasp of was the underhand bicep biased pull down. Right, so that's where you take a seat under a cable stack, put the cable at max height, and then basically just do a fucking pull down. But rather than leverage your lats and your traps and your whole back to pull your arm down, what you're really trying to do, or what I'm really thinking about, is just trying to pull my hands to my shoulders, right? But that's kind of just an example of what the end range looks like. Really, I'm just trying to squeeze the fuck in my biceps. But if I bounce around with a combination of those, or if let's say I had a top hat with each of those movements written inside it, let's say I had a tricep hat and then a bicep curl hat. If I were to reach in there at random, pick start with 2 sets of dips. Okay, well, 2 sets of squeezing rope, 2 sets of overhead, 2 sets of straight bar push downs. It'd be good, man. So as much as there is certainly a quality to putting effort into making sure you pick enough movements to completely hit whatever muscle it is you're targeting, don't lose sight of the fact that either one that you go after, you still should put your full fucking force into it. It's like, yeah, obviously the sharper your axe, the easier it is to cut down the tree. But even if that axe isn't like perfectly fucking sharp, if you swing it hard enough, it's still going to break through. Now, that's not an excuse to do like the dumbest sets of triceps. It's more so testament to make sure your intensity is there. And then when you match that with good exercise selection, plus some quality muscular activation, right? AKA kind of, well, and it doesn't have to be just pure form, but for the most part, doing it in a little bit of a fancier way where you make sure you're just targeting whatever your targeted muscle is and working nothing else. That's what you know, the whole form police of bodybuilding and lifting is kind of all about, which I am getting better at, which I'm glad about. I haven't really looked back at it, but oh man, I bet I've got some things to say about my own training, even just a fucking year and a half ago in some of these old videos. But that's the whole point of it, right? Grow, learn, and then, well, physically grow. But no point chatting any further. Let's just cut straight to some cable lifting, dumbbell moving, pump inducing sets. Gosh darn it. Yeah, I might have called it. Nothing beats the rope when I'm fresh, that is. This is something which isn't really, I mean, I never hear this referenced, but it really kind of changed my fucking approach with triceps. A squeezing set, like this set with the rope, when I'm completely unpumped, like I'm warm, like this, I'm warm for this weight. I've done some warm-up reps, but I'm unpumped. I can get a complete squeeze to the point where my arms are actually like all the way straight, not just like ending at this range of motion. Whereas 5 sets down the road after this one, my triceps gonna be so pumped up, I'll be able to get to like here, and that'll be it. So if I were to save my squeezing rope set for later, which I mean, I might still do one, but I don't get that same complete extension and full like squeeze, like I'm trying to bend my arms backwards around themselves, that I get with this one. But 2 here, and then we'll pick some kind of curl and just bounce around until my arms are at least close to popping. Oh yeah. Okay. Time for 2 sets of some kind of curl. Oh yeah, okay. Whew. The nice part about going from curls to the tricep movement is, apart from just catching my breath, my triceps are fresh. So let's get a hefty one, squeezing of course. Okay. Whew. No. Okay. Whew. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's just jump forward a few steps to the curl machine. This tack here should be a good squeeze and set as well. These might get a little nastier as the pump or the lift itself progresses, because there is a certain loss of real squeezability the more fucking inflated and like inflamed your chest is, or your chest, your muscle. So sometimes I might want to finish with like a nasty set of some kind of cable curl or dumbbell curl or like easy bar curl, but I probably would want to start with the style like this. No, it's not a cut and dry rule. It's just kind of a pattern I've recognized. But you know how to do a good set. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a triceps. Overhead, I believe. All right, I'm not actually sure I'm gonna like this, but I think I will. And if I don't, I'll just switch it up to something else. But 5 reps with a straight bar, or I guess the slightly cambered bar as a burnout. Flip myself upside down, overhead extensions to failure. This time with an extra plate, which may or may not be too heavy. The feeler rep felt good, but I'll just have to find out. I would really love if this bar was slightly more angled, but not at a 90-degree angle like the V-bar. That one doesn't do it for me. I'm not strong enough to just bend this thing out of my own sheer will, so it's just a waiting type game. Oh, it's a tie. Oh, yeah. One more. Okay. The 50-pound dumbbell with a regular like Life Fitness style bench at notch number 6 is my favorite. And I mean, I could walk the dumbbell over to the preacher curl like stack loaded machine and do these seated, but this ends up working fucking fine. Plus the dumbbell is right there. So I kind of do a little bit of self cushioning. So I'm holding the dumbbell, hand here on top of this thing, and then I sort of just rest my whole arm on top. Plus I'm kind of I'm leaning my right leg against the thing. This back leg's a little further out. So I'm totally stable. I don't have to worry about balance. All I have to worry about is fucking squeezing. And then maybe some self-assistance, but honestly, regular failure on this is pretty much brutal. So let's just make it happen here. Right side first. Oh my God, okay. Yeah. 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 Do me. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think this will be the finisher. So 5 reps of a right side push down, 5 of the left. I'll do that twice. So that'll be 10 reps on one side, 10 on the other total. And immediately jump over to the seat and do like 10, 15 reps of bicep biased pull downs. Now, in either one of these sets, doing it one time alone is not that crazy. I mean, that's not like failure. I could do these for a couple, but the action going back and forth 2, maybe even 3 times, fatigue will start to build. I know I'm going to get extra fucking, I mean, inflamed isn't the right word, but swollen and pumped up really is. So this will be a perfect finisher, and I'm right in front of cool lighting too. So let's just get this done, closed in, and get out of here. Tries first. Oh yeah. No. No. Okay. All right. Let's pose the heck down. Arms are now fully fucking pumped. There is no contact with the shoulders with my fingers as far as I can reach, which is usually a pretty good sign. So you can't judge your pump just off of that. We gotta take some real visual fucking measurements here. No measuring tape, but I wouldn't be surprised if my arms have deflated back down to maybe the high 19s inches around pumped. Maybe still 20, but I'm not really freaking. Because even though the radius around or the diameter around may ease up a little bit just from not being so bulked up and full of carbs, the freak factor will always continue to increase because the leaner I get, the more veiny everything will get, different kind of separations and everything else. So it kind of it's kind of an inverse relationship, right? But let's run through a couple classics here. Oh. Oh. Whew. Yeah. Dude, I love a fucking pose down with a full-on arm pump. Let's get a quick double by and then scram. Oh. Oh my gosh. So as time progresses, I expect more veins, more striations, shoulder veins even. I can't fucking wait, but gonna have to. Let's get in the car. I've got a little something to say here. I've got a little something. Now, I'm no psychologist, so I only have a surface level grasp of kind of how I've gotten into this sort of stuff on my own, but I do think it's worth thinking about, right? And I've said this a couple times. We've all heard it, right? We've all heard every fucking cliche that there is under the book, right? The grass isn't always greener on the other side. No pain, no gain. What's another one? What's another one? Hindsight's always 20/20. Like, we've all heard these all the fucking time, to the point where they kind of, you kind of glance over them. But the reason that something becomes a cliche like that is because it is so fucking true that it gets said a million times to the point where it's oversaid, and then it's like, you know, now you're just repeating the same shit everybody else talks about. But I would be lying to you if I said that they were, you know, just worth glancing over. And I'm going to try not to get distracted while I look at these like 4 deer walking around this guy's yard. But one that I really like, one that if you look at it a little deeper than surface level, can really get you going, or at least gets me going, is believe to achieve, right? You got to believe it to achieve it. And frankly, at a surface value, you might just hear that and think, all right. But when I you know, it's been I don't think like this all the time. Like all the self-help kind of speeches and like motivational videos of old guys where they would I mean, I guess it is still a big thing. I don't see it as much now, but the 80s videos where it's a guy talking about this kind of stuff and he's like, you know, imagine your goal in your mind in detail and then cut it down to size to daily steps which you can take to get to it. That stuff is legit, right? I mean, don't take it overboard and be a, you know, talk like that and think like that every day in kind of a cult-like manner. But I really do like that kind of stuff because, I mean, just think about it, right? Usually, any large-scale goal can be downsized and compared directly to something smaller. Right? The only reason we think it ends up being huge and fucking daunting and unattainable is just because we haven't done it before or it's out of your comfort zone, right? So think about it. Do I have much question in my own ability to get leaner over these next 3 months? Not really. Now, half of that is also because I've done it before, but the other half is because I understand the fact that, okay, if I eat this much food, do my cardio, right, keep lifting like normal, and then, you know, stay well hydrated, whatever else, and if I'm eating in a calorie deficit, then I know it for a fact I'm going to get leaner and I know for a fact that I want to get leaner. So given all those facts or just situations or circumstances in my own mind, okay, I believe I'm going to get leaner over these next 3 months, in the same sense that I just know that I'm going to make it happen, right? So the same thing fucking applies to anything else. And it kind of comes down to identity in a way, right? There's a clip of Steve-O, or maybe it's not, oh crap, what's the guy? This guy is legit. Real, like, motivational kind of self-help speaker guy, kind of burly, tall, scruff, I don't know the guy's name, but he did a podcast with Steve-O, and he's talking about somebody who has an addiction, right? And he's like, you know, someone who's constantly counting the days of like, okay, it's been 10 days since I've had a cigarette, it's been 5 days since I've had a cigarette, oh man, and like they're using that as a badge of honor. It's like, you know, it's been 6 days since I had a cigarette. It's like the guy basically goes into, well, why does that matter? If you don't identify as a smoker, then who cares how long it's been since you had a cigarette? You don't do that anymore, right? So it's kind of it's sort of a where your mind goes, your body will follow kind of situation. And the way I would apply that, even just on an intensity basis, is look at your sets, man. You know, I don't want to be a guy where I do a scrappy set, you know, reach uncomfortability and then rack it and then leave. I don't want to do that, right? I want to identify as a lifter who can fucking take each set he can as hard and fucking far as he can with reason, rack it, rest up, do it again, make that shit happen, and make sure all my training sessions are, you know, as successfully stimulating as fucking possible, right? So that's where that kind of applies to something that you can look for. And I still do this. Like, I don't train perfectly intense every fucking lift. I'm still working on it. I'll have, it was just a couple of weeks ago, I was doing triceps on one arm day, and I could tell I was doing like the bent over overhead extensions, just like I did earlier. And I stopped before I really actually hit failure. Like, the only reason I stopped the set was because it was starting to get a little tense, and like, oh, well, you know, that's a pretty, excuse me. In my mind, I'm like, oh, it's a pretty good set. Yeah, it's starting to hurt. Racked it instead of really pushing it as hard as I could. And even if I only got one more, I knew I had something left in the tank, and that kind of irked me. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? Right? So making those little adjustments toward whatever kind of bar you're aiming for yourself, that is where I think a lot of legit progress stems from, you know? So it's, and you don't have to be perfect off the fucking get-go, right? It's more so like what your real actual intention is with whatever you're going for, and then trying to, you know, aim for it along the way. That's why I really, that's why I think a lot of guys look up to, and, you know, it seems kind of silly, but for real, you kind of idolize even just fictional fucking characters, because it's not the guy itself. It's more like the idea that a fucking, you know, a Goku or somebody going through like a training arc or whatever, or like a superhero kind of presents, right? Because it's like an idealized, more romanticized version of real life. So to aim for something like that, or to compare yourself to somebody like that and try to work towards it, even if you don't get there, that you're still kind of on a good fucking track, you know? So that's my thought there. It's like you should kind of want to be able to do as much as you want to do purely for its own sake. It's, at least I feel it's way more fun that way. You know, with whatever kind of hobby, you're just like spending your free time how you want to spend it in a way. And I don't mean that like selfishly, but the guys where they have a real complex in a sense of like trying to like people please with whatever goals they're trying to achieve. Like their back end surface level motivation isn't like, okay, I want to do this and go through this process because I like it, I have fun with it, and I'm going to enjoy the end of it as well. And I'll get to enjoy looking back at it, knowing I did it, and I pushed myself. Something like that is awesome. But a lot of times, especially for like a younger crowd, if you're, you know, if your parents are pushing you to do some kind of sport or whatever else, it's just not an awesome motivator to be pushed to do something for someone else's satisfaction. You know, I mean, I've seen it a lot with the gymnastics and with the diving. at least at kind of the higher levels, dude, it's kind of rough. I mean, these parents put a lot of fucking pressure on their kids. Like we'd you know, I wasn't all the stuff I came up with, it was sort of self-driven in a way. Like I was never like we weren't like, if you didn't place first or anything, you got yelled at. But we'd see it. One time we went to the last time I was in Vegas, we did a gymnastics competition where it was just like a kind of a fun trip for everybody to go out all the way over there instead of just stay in Ohio. But what happened was we got grouped up with these two seriously good kids. Like we were good. We could swing around the bars and spin around and do like a double flip and land it. Like we weren't bad. But these kids were way crazier. They could fucking do a flip over the bar, catch it again, everything perfect, straight legs, pointed toes, but no fun. You know, they were not having fun with it. It's because I mean the guy was really pushing it on them, and I guess in some instances it works. You know, I mean, fucking the pressure makes diamonds kind of thing, right? With like, but that's not everybody. You know, really to force something onto someone else like that, which usually a fucking parent-child relationship is sort of like, if you force anything, usually the opposite is going to result, and then whoever you're trying to motivate is just going to end up resenting whatever it was you were trying to push on them. You know, somebody who was really forced into crazy sports as a kid and hated it the whole time, but only did it because they, you know, they had to, they're not having any fun. And it's that's easy to say now because, you know, in the grand scheme of that sort of adolescence and everything, I'm in control of my own life, right? I've got the reins here, so I can kind of pivot it to where I, you know, and do what I want to do in my way, right? But it, you know, if you're a kid, it's kind of hard to grasp that, you know. But as you get a little older, that's something I think is worth thinking about. You know, it's like, okay, what am I doing, and for what reasons? You know, because I mean, and it's that's not everything. I'm not talking about the way you dress or, well, yeah, I guess I am kind of a little. But when it comes to something where you're putting a lot of time into it, it's just going to be way more satisfying to do it for your own kind of just internal, wholesome satisfaction, rather than anything kind of external. Now, usually I mean, everybody's motivations are going to shift and kind of, you know, evolve over time. I mean, every, maybe not so much now, but it's a classic trope. I mean, guy gets broken up with because he's not for the bigger dude, and then he's like, oh, well, now I want to get that big because then I can get the girl, or, you know, that kind of, we've all heard the fucking story, right? But usually somewhere along the way, getting into the gym and everything else, the guy realizes like, oh shit, this is just fucking cool, right? And it's what's the point in doing anything beyond that, right? I mean, that's why we think like sharks and lasers and fucking MMA is cool. It's just like, oh, that's fucking cool, right? Very simple. There's no loop around. It's like, I'm doing this, I like it, I want to keep doing it, I want to keep getting better at it, I feel good the whole time, let's make this shit happen, you know? So that's where having a thing is nice. It doesn't have to be working out. I think everybody should work out at least a regular level. You know, you don't have to be training like a power lifter or that, I mean, that kind of intensity, and like have your nose bleeding on every fucking workout and you got a guy screaming at you. But I do think everybody should get some weightlifting exposure, and it doesn't have to be a routine. I mean, bring your anybody that you know who doesn't work out at all would benefit extremely from just walking into the gym a couple times a week, doing a few sets of, I mean, just doing a few sets for a full body workout, like a couple sets sitting on the leg extension, a few sets of like a pull down, a few sets of some kind of chest press, maybe some push downs and some curls, or some push downs and some curls. Like just getting any weight-based exposure is just straight up good for you, right? The lifting part doesn't have to be your thing, but I do think everybody should do that at least a little bit. But having a real thing like that where you can pour a lot of time and energy into it and get back in return your own kind of like, oh, nice, like you feel good about it, that's really cool, right? So that's where I'm a little bit spoiled, because that is the lifting thing, right? So of course I'm going to be walking around fucking yoked because I put so much time and energy into it, and it's just like, in a way, I'm probably taking it too far. I'm revolving my whole life around it. So, in that sense, maybe don't take the Sam journey as a perfect example all around, Right? Take some bits and pieces. Take the intensity. Take the cardio. Take the macro tracking. You know, take the progressive overload and trying to adjust your routine over time. That's those are the real things I'm trying to push. You know, with the whole viewership kind of everything. But all that's to say, I had a good lift. I had fun the whole time, and now I get to go home, eat some food, rest up, and come back tomorrow and do it again. Plus, I get an extra satisfaction knowing I'm on track to getting extra lean. Oh man, I keep going back and watching like lean edits when I was, I don't even know what body fat percentage. It had to be low. It had to be 6 or 7, probably closer to 7, 7 or 8 or so. But I'm talking veins, cuts, striations. It's coming back. Don't worry. Next couple of weeks, honestly, even just 1 month is going to be a pretty drastic change from right now. So that's what I'm excited for. But I've got a leg day planned tomorrow. So I'll see you then.